This is Referee's World with Darren Cullum and Richard Mellin.
Hello again and welcome to the Referee's World podcast, the monthly audio magazine which offers education and training for football referees of all levels. My name's Darren Cullum. I am a Level 5 referee affiliated with Somerset FA, and this is PGMOL assessor and FA Level 4 referee tutor and my mentor, Richard Mellin, also associated with the Somerset FA.
Hi, Darren.
Hello.
You got that right.
Again.
How many times did you
Two
try?
on the bounce. Excellent. Brilliant. Listen, if you're a first-time listener, welcome to the podcast. Hopefully you've been recommended to us. If that's the case, thank you for checking us out. We're online at refereesworld.co.uk, on Twitter at Referees World, and you can search us out on Facebook. Get involved in the conversation. Follow us, like us, be involved, be part of the refereeing community around the world, which indeed this podcast well and truly is. We've been going now for some 4 years. Is it 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
4 years.
Celebrating 4 years this month.
Wow. Excellent. Well, happy birthday, Rich.
Oh, thanks very much. Happy birthday, Darren.
Yeah, excellent. Right, okay, we like to cover every topic possible. We also like to have special guest speakers on the show as well. And today is no exception. We're going to go straight into our special guest speaker. Who is, Rich?
Martin Underhay. Martin, let me say, when I was refereeing, he was a colourful player in every sense of the game. Chopsy, physical. He liked to get involved, and he would make an announcement every time you refereed him.
And was he a big, stocky player? Was he skillful player? Was he sort of short and dumpy like you?
Well, we're going to have a chat with him. We're going to have a chat with him in a minute. I don't want to sort of make him out to be sort of, what can I say? He's not a pin-up.
Right, okay.
Unders is not a pin-up. Unders is about 5'9".
He's on the line waiting, you know. You didn't realise it. So you've obviously had a bit of rapport with him over the years when you were
thoroughly
refereeing.
Enjoyed refereeing him, and we had a good rapport. He was a competitive player. I'm a competitive referee, and we matched up, and we matched up nicely because, like I say, we knew where the line had to be drawn. Mark knew where he could take it.
A mutual respect.
Sure, and that happens not just with the odd player. That happens with a lot of players, and in this case, Martin, having had a good playing career, decided he wanted to stay in the game, and he became a referee, and he's now a level 3.
So,
and a good level 3.
You've described him as poacher come gamekeeper.
Yes, I do believe he is poacher come gamekeeper. I had that description thrown at me, but I never got to the levels that Martin played at. I played at County League standard for Bridgewater Town Reserves in my day. That was the best that I got to. And now Unders has come into refereeing, having played many clubs. I think he's had more clubs than Jack Nicklaus. You know, that's the best way I can.
Surely not. Surely not.
That's how he comes across. But he's smashing chap, and I look forward to having a chat with him.
And we'll do that in just a moment. But you say poacher come gamekeeper, and if we can compare that to somebody in the Premiership, I would say Michael Oliver, because he is now at the top of his game as a referee, but he was also, before a referee, a player with Newcastle United, wasn't he?
Michael had time with Newcastle United. I don't know to what extent.
I don't think he'd made it all the way, but he was at a top club.
He was training with a top club.
Some might argue with that, though.
Yeah, he was training with a top club, and now look at Michael.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Brilliant. Let's get him on. Let's speak to our guest speaker, and welcome to the Referees World podcast from Weymouth, Martin Underhay. Hello.
Hello there, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well. I think it's worth pointing out, actually, that tell us where you're sat right now.
I'm actually sat outside my house in a car because inside my house are the kids, and that's total carnage, so I need peace and quiet.
You're having quiet man time in the car talking to us on the podcast, which is great to hear.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the wife is putting the kids to bed on her own.
Well, it's that time of night and that we're recording. So, Martin, thanks very much for joining us on the podcast. Richard has been describing you to me as poacher come gamekeeper. We'll get onto that in just a moment. But just tell us a bit about your background, what you do, and your refereeing career and how it's all started for you.
Well, basically, my playing background started as soon as I left school. I was involved at Torquay United, and then I didn't get a pro contract, and it was very disappointing. I didn't know what I was going to do. Went into the non-league game quite quickly and found myself in the fantastic Western League. And I went through so many good sides in the Western League, notably I started at Exmouth Town, which Championship. I really enjoyed my time at Exmouth Town. It was short, but it was very good. And then I went on to Torrington, which is probably where I enjoyed my football the most, if I'm honest. There was a great set of lads up there, and I also played for Biddeford just before that, and Saltash United. There's a lot of clubs. I could go on, but I won the Western League Championship with Taunton Town, and also an FA Vars quarter-final and an FA Vars semi-final, before moving on to Weymouth in the Southern League. The old Southern League, the way it was back then, which would probably be now the Conference South. I've played it at a really good standard. I also played for Salisbury at that standard, and it came to me when I was sort of coming back down the ranks after 3 or 4 really good years at Weymouth, that I ended up back in the Western League, with the likes of Street, Chard, and Dawlish. And
you have been around, mate, haven't you?
I certainly have, and the thing is, I'm a football lover, and I couldn't be away from the game. I felt that I didn't want to be away from the game. I felt that when I was finished at Western League level, I felt that I wasn't on the pitch.
A lot of unfinished business, as they say.
I think so, yeah, because a lot of my goals that I set myself, once I got a sniff of the FA Vars, for instance, I thought, I want to play at Wembley. You mentioned
Wembley there, Martin, very quickly. Were you part of the Taunton Town team that went to Wembley?
I wasn't part of the Taunton Town. I went to Taunton Town just after that, but I played with literally all of those players.
Yeah, okay.
So, they're a fantastic side. At the time, they were unlucky to lose their Wembley final, but obviously, as you know, they went on and won the Vars about 8 years later. So, very good for them. So
when you've done the rounds, at what point did you think, right, okay, and you must have had a lot of jip, particularly at that level of football, you must have had a lot of jip from your fellow playing colleagues about going to become a referee?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing that made me go into it in the first place was I played for Bridport, and I gave this official so much grief. And I know who this official is now, and I gave him, and it was bad, and it was beyond. It crossed the line, and I was so bad. And I decided on that drive home that night, I didn't want to be a manager. So I thought, how am I going to carry on in the game?
It wasn't Rich you were giving the abuse to, was it? Because I know he's refereed you.
It certainly wasn't Rich. Me and Rich we really got on, actually. Me and Rich got on very, very, very well. That was never a problem. I probably ended up in Rich's book a few times, but it was never a problem. But that was what made me think, my future in the game didn't lie in coaching, and it didn't lie in management. So I needed a way in, and I was seeing a woman at the time, and I remember her son had a game, and the manager rung her up and said, "Look, we haven't got a referee this afternoon. Would you amend it?" And she asked me, and I said, absolutely I would. And I was quite excited. I thought, oh, that's good. It was only under 11s, and I thought, yeah, I'll have a go. And then I knew inside 2 minutes, that's what I wanted to do. I knew in 2 minutes, this is my way back onto the pitch. I was 37 years old, 38 years old.
I was going to say, how long ago was that you made that decision?
That was, it's going to be 7, 8 years ago now.
And now you haven't looked back, and you're level 3.
I'm level 3. I'm enjoying it, and I'm still looking forward. I still believe I've got a lot more to give, and I still think that I can. I've got enough drive to move forward. I still want to move forward. I'm not happy where I am, and I think that's just me in general. I'm never happy with there. I'm always trying to get to the next level until my body decides, Martin, you can't run no more, and I'm gonna continue doing what I'm doing.
Well, clearly you've got a very good standard of fitness, which is great. Before I hand you over to Rich, I just need to ask you. I forgot to ask you at the beginning what position you played in the team.
I was a horrible striker.
Oh.
Right side.
But I used to let defenders have it a little bit as well.
Good on you. Good on you. So Rich, come on. Martin, through the games that you refereed with, what was it like as a player?
We had some good times. We had many, many good times. And for me, the rapport that you have with players on the field of play is important, because you need to sort of understand the frustrations that come with it, because there are, but you need to where to draw the line.
I think this is a very
I think
good.
Under's understood that.
This is a really good point for you to take over here, Rich, and start with that, Martin. So it's good to speak to you. I'll hand you over to Rich now, but clearly you two had a very good relationship, and you know, that is a key element to football, particularly these days when there is so much pressure there.
Absolutely. I mean, I look at the game now, and the relationship, the player-referee relationship, can really have a positive. If you've got a good relationship with the players, it has a positive positive impact on the game. It's really, really good, and players can see that you're like that, and you're trying to get a rapport with them, and the good players, they do react, and they do realise what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree with that, Mark, because like I say, that's the way I like to referee. But in a way, I don't want listeners to think that they're going to listen about the way Richard Mellon referees, but I want them to listen to your experiences as I described it, as a poacher now come gamekeeper, because you've got a lot to offer the game in terms of, you know, your experiences and your energy. As a player, how would you describe yourself as a player? So if our referees are listening now, and I know they are, how would they be able to recognise your style of play? What was sort of a feature of your way of playing?
I mean, I was very combative. I was very, very fast, but I was also very, very feisty. When you're a striker and you're 5'8" tall, you've got to make sure that those people you're playing against know you're playing against them.
Yeah.
So if I was a referee, I would be looking out for absolutely anything I could to see what that little striker is trying to do to get himself above like a 6'4" defender who's going to come through him. And I tried absolutely everything. There was I might just be a little late on him a few times, or might, you know, if I think something went against me, like I said, I was feisty, so I would go for referees if I didn't think it was correct or something like that. So they are the players I now do completely, you know, try to get on top of, because I know exactly what I was like.
I agree. So the physicality for yourself was an important feature, and you were a bit vocal as well.
I certainly was.
Yes, I do recall that. But Mark, let's just touch on how did you make your decisions to be late? What was the variety of being late involved? What did that mean?
Being late into a tackle. So, for instance,
on the floor, standing up, in the air.
I would get myself in between when the ball's in the air and there's a 6'4" defender. I would do absolutely anything with pulling, shorts, blocking, anything to put him off getting that header in.
And that's before the ball gets there, isn't it?
Way before the ball gets there.
Grabbing body parts, that kind of thing.
Well, I don't think I've grabbed a body part. If I did, it wasn't
I know somebody that did do that once, and that was a Middlesbrough game. I know, but that's another story.
Yeah, I mean, you do when the ball's in the air and you've got a 6'4" guy, you do anything you can to stop him from heading the ball clearly. But if you've got, for instance, you're having a bit of a tough time against a fullback, for instance, then when you're running in the channels, you know, there wasn't many as quick as me, but the ones that were, I used to, basically, if the ball used to go out for them and I used to close them down, I used to let them get there I used to let them get there, make sure they could clear it, and make sure I'll catch them on the follow-through. Now, that's what you have to be aware of as a referee, that little players or quicker players will try and get an edge, and sometimes they will let them clear the ball just so they can catch him. You know, so you do have to be aware that there are players out there who will play that sort of game.
Martin, do you think that being a player at the standard that you did was a huge help to you as a referee? Because there are a lot of referees that have never kicked a football in their life, and they've done everything by the law. And the one that springs to mind straight away from memory, I think, was David Ellery, wasn't it? He never played the game. He got to the top in his refereeing, but because he hadn't played football, some would have said that perhaps he didn't see it from a footballer's brain and therefore could have let a few things go a bit more often.
Yeah, I mean, David was very much a rule book referee, and he had a certain way with players, but in the same respect that he didn't play the game, I think sometimes the players did react to him differently than they would to say, let's see, other referees, Paul Durkin, for instance, who played a little bit when he was younger, and it wasn't. They knew what they were getting from David Ellery. You won't be able to say this to David Ellery. You won't be able to do that because he won't have it, and he doesn't understand, and he didn't understand. But the players knew that, and I think they adjusted their game to suit. You have to know. It's very important that you have to know your referees. The top managers know their referees, and they know what their little traits are. But I do think that, from my point of view, knowing the game, actually, it does certainly help me in games where it's building that rapport and then empathising with a player when things don't go quite right, and you can always see when things aren't going right for a player on the pitch. You can see when it's not going right for them. So there are times when you can use that to your advantage, I think.
Okay, mate, that's a good point there where I can come in with a question to you now. Now, I want you to be the referee here, and if you've got Martin Underhay running up and down on the right-hand side as a forward for the team, and you know a little bit about his background, how do you put the mark on the ground? How do you draw the line?
Well, the players that like myself, I always find the players that look like myself. The first thing I would do would be quite vocal as a player. I would take my men on. I would know that player is going to take on a defender, and my first thought would be, right, what is reaction going to be if he doesn't get past him? And then if his reaction is bad when he doesn't get past him, it normally becomes vocal. So as a referee, what I try to do is I try to stop the vocal immediately, because I know that's where the frustrations start. As soon as the frustrations start, I think it's good to get on top of it. And it doesn't mean a public admonishment or anything like that. Just have a word, get the rapport, say, look, calm yourself down. I know you're getting frustrated and all this, but fella, I can't have you talking to me like this, okay? Or else I will deal with it. And more often than not, I see the players, they start moving forward with their game. And when something really good happens, and it happens a couple of times, and I said, see, when you actually play the game, you're looking like the best player on the pitch. I might say that to them because it makes them feel better and it makes them feel more relaxed. I find that things like that, just tiny little one-liners like that, they all work for me.
Getting players working with you.
Absolutely. I think it's absolutely critical you get players working with you, especially the further you go up.
Yeah. Very quickly, who was the toughest fullback that you ever played against?
Oh, toughest. Well, I can tell you the toughest centre half I ever played against.
Okay, yeah, we'll call him a fullback as well.
Toughest centre half was Dave Ewings.
All right.
Dave Ewings. He never forget a game I played against him. I was actually playing for Bridgewater Town, another team. But I was playing for Bridgewater Town, and the ball came into me 30 seconds into the game, and we're talking back in 1998 or whatever it was. So you could tackle back then and not get a card. And he came through me like you wouldn't believe, and he just took me up in the air, and I looked back at him, and because I know him, he was backing off, just laughing and going and looking at me laughing, and then I give him one back a few minutes later. But yeah. You didn't get much change out of Dave, and he would be happy to mix it with you for a very, very long time. One person I did play against, which I really, really did upset in one game, and he let me know the second time I played him. I only played against him twice. His name was Liam Daish. Oh my God!
Yeah,
I upset him. Yes, he's a very, very, very big mountain of a man.
Yeah,
and I upset him one day because I give him a roasting. I come on a sub. I give him a roasting for 20 minutes, and then in the return fixture, I started, and he basically kicked me all over having to Waterlooville for 90 minutes, and I didn't get a kick. So, yeah. I
Love your honesty there, mate.
probably
Good
the
on you.
toughest one.
Anders,
Yeah,
Anders, do you think that having been a player gives a little bit of freedom to fast track as a referee? A player at a decent level. I mean, because the conversation has been had over the last however many years that ex-pro players who come out of the game should be given that little bit of extra encouragement and freedom to come back into the game and avoid grassroots level. Do you think that's a viable situation?
From personal experience, no, I don't. I honestly think it was invaluable to me that I went through. Okay, it was only one season at the Dorset Football League, and we're talking Division 3, Division 2, but that was a really good introduction into the game. And okay, the standard of the game isn't what you're used to. So, but what that did do is when things happen on a football pitch that sometimes you've never seen before, when they happened, you've got to be able to deal with that. And I think that stood me in good stead, to be perfectly honest. So I think it's good to start grassroots, at least for a season, and start moving forward from there. I don't think you should be just given a straight route into the semi-professional game, if you like. And I'm starting with, for me, I think you have to start with the local football first, maybe for a season, even 6 months, just to see what can happen.
It's like your apprenticeship, isn't it?
Football.
It's a bit like your apprenticeship.
Absolutely, and refereeing's a completely different thing. It's the same as management. You look at one of the greatest players in this country's ever produced, Brian Robson, without question, one of the greatest players this country's ever produced. Management. That didn't really work for it.
No.
So do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's two different things. It's two different things, and I do think you have got to serve your apprenticeship and then move forward like that. That's what I did, and that's what I think you should do.
And every game is a learning curve. Martin, just want to ask you about something else here. In terms of your preparation for a game now, you're preparing every weekend for a level 3 standard as a referee. How has your preparation going into refereeing towards a game changed from when you were actually playing?
I'm so much more organised. if you are not organised as a referee, you will come up. Things will happen in that game, or things will just happen that just don't work for you, don't go for you. You've got to know days and days in advance. Have a look at who you're refereeing. It's all right to say, check where they are in the league and all this, that, and the other. I will be looking at all sorts of things about those two teams just to get a little bit of background on them.
Tell us about some of the things that you would look for in particular.
I look at the match reports of all the teams. For instance, that I'm refereeing, who's been cautioned and what reason. Is there a player that constantly dissents? Is there a player that constantly causes fouls? So maybe you're not prejudging them, but what you're doing is you're thinking, right, I need to keep an eye on him. I want to get him on side. Again, it can help your relationship with players. It's all about just organising yourself, and you can actually do yourself a lot of favours by doing all these little things, and all the other things that you don't do as a player. I mean, as a player, I can tell you, I was one of these at times. Your kit bag would be thrown in a cupboard, okay, and then 10 minutes before you leave, you would take it out of the cupboard as a player. As a referee, that doesn't happen. As a referee, your kit
gets washed.
Your kit,
your boots get
definitely
clean.
gets washed. Yeah, absolutely. And luckily, mine magically appears in my bag again, and I double check it because that's the wife. but everything else, my boots are washed. I'll make sure you've got all your equipment. Absolutely crucial at all times. I don't, check it, double check it, make sure you've got everything, and do it the night before. What's the point of doing it an hour before you're going? Do it the night before. Get ready to go. Organisation is everything, and do your homework before a game. Absolutely, do your homework.
Mark, do you think having been a player, you've had to sort of what can I say? It's been a bit more difficult to convince the players you know what you're doing, or do you find them a little bit more receptive than or easier than what you expected?
No, to be honest, I thought it was going to be different. I thought it was going to be difficult, but it's as time's gone on. In the early days, the players, when I go out, okay, forgetting the local league players, they didn't have a clue who I was anyway. But once you got up to the Western League level and now Southern League level, there's a lot of managers and coaches. They all know who you are. Secretaries, they've all seen you before. They all know you. And in the early days, in the really early days, there would be a little bit of laughing when they saw me in black, and they wouldn't be laughing after 5 minutes once their 3 decisions had gone against them. But there's a level of acceptance very, very quickly for me that actually he's not bad. He's had a good game there, and as long as you don't make a fool of yourself, I found myself being accepted very, very quickly. And now, where I live, obviously I've played for Weymouth, I've played for Dorchester, and where I am now, everybody looks at me as a referee. When the people see me or a picture of me in the paper now, or a picture of me in an old picture yesteryear in a Weymouth kit or something like that, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you played."
I think it's worth pointing out. Well, it's worth pointing out as well in the part of the world that you live. Teams like Weymouth have a massive following. It's not unheard of to get 2,000-3,000 people at a game, is it?
No, not at all. I mean, I played in front of 2,000 and 3,000 many times at Weymouth. You look at the FA Trophy run that we had to the quarterfinals, and then you play against Dorchester Town. 4,000. 4,000.
Do you know that's bigger than some league games that take place around the country, isn't it?
I know it is absolutely amazing, and like when both teams are doing well, because I remember we were flying at the time, and Dorchester were going quite well. And I was playing, and the now Dorchester manager, Mark Germain, it was his first season there, and there was 3,500 people in that ground that day.
Great.
And it's something else. Yeah, it is.
Mate,
it's a big following.
We've all got our own traits. We've all got our own ways of doing things. What do's and what don'ts do you have? Tips that you could pass on and share.
What do's and what don'ts? Don't prejudge. Don't try not to prejudge players before a game. But my do's, it works, but it does work for me. Where with dissent, if things haven't worked with a certain player or something like that, and then another player comes in, and he might be, and you're getting a few chirps here and there, which does happen, and we all know, level 5, level 4, chirping all over the place. I normally pick the captain out, and I'll go, and it's not, okay, it won't work for everybody, let's get that straight. But I always say, skipper, say, next one's in the book, and the one after that. I'll say, and then, unfortunately, it normally happens, but you have to follow it through.
Yeah.
I follow it through, done, all gone. That sort of works for me, you know. So that's a big do for me. But again,
absolutely, it's a big shout, mate. But if it works for you and it helps you to manage a situation, then that's what you have to do, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you do try. There's so many different things you try as a referee, and if something's working for you, don't let anybody talk you out of it. If something works for you and it works for you a lot, then use it. It's part of your armoury. You need to use what you can as part of your armoury at all times.
What's your biggest success then, Anders?
My biggest success
in refereeing, in refereeing, and what you've done, not where you've been as regards what ground you've been to, but you talk about what works for you. What is it that works for you?
Well, I would say that the amount of work that I actually put into my training, that's, the fact that I've done all that, that's work for me, because I look at my assessments. I am never, ever, ever caught on fitness and work rate, ever. So that works for me. Laws of the game. Knowing all the laws of the game and following the laws of the game through. It's not just a book you've got and you stick in your bag. You need a little refresher every now and again. Make sure you know all the laws of the game so nobody can pick you up on it. So just make sure that nobody can pick you up on any of that. And I just think that doing all these little things, like knowing that, refreshing yourself, all the little training, you do have those little successes then, so if somebody does challenge you, you can come in with an answer and you're right. So there's a lot to be said for stuff like that.
Do you think you're well prepared then with your answers? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I know where you're coming from, and I know what my style was when I was out there. And we can't teach character and personality, but that's what we're looking for in refereeing, and what players look for in a referee. Has he got character and personality? Is he
really.
Is he approachable? Does he communicate? Is he receptive to exchange, or is he rigidly running by the book?
She?
Or she? Yeah. Sorry, girls.
Listening. I mean, for me, my personality, that's like you say, that's a success for me. And I would say to any referee, you have to have personality. You have to use your personality, because players want that. If you're refereeing, for me, I think if you're refereeing by a rule book, you're going to open yourself up to a few problems, because they do everything like that. It doesn't resonate with players. It certainly doesn't resonate with managers and secretaries of football clubs. But if you need I believe you need a personality, and you need to stamp your personality on that game whilst being authoritative.
And personality includes smiling, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I smile all the time. Have a laugh and a joke with the players when you can, because you get them on side, and it's like I said earlier on, you need to get a good rapport, and you need to get players on side, and having a little joke with them every now and again. There's no problem with that.
I agree.
Absolutely. I think it shows good. It's a good thing that shows humility. I think definitely.
Okay, Martin, a couple of things before we finish up. First thing is, if you could give one tip, okay, to a new referee that's just come on the scene, what would that tip be?
One tip to a new referee. Okay. Right, get out training in the winter hard. Learn your laws of the game, and don't be frightened, and always look confident during a game of football. Confidence is everything. Sell everything with confidence. So be confident in everything that you do. That's my tip. Always be confident.
Something that Rich has said many times is sell your decisions and puff your chest out, be strong, stand one up. So, well, listen, it's been great talking to you. I'm going to throw you on the spot before we go. We like to do this every now and again, and you sound like the sort of character, I don't know you, I could, Rich, but you sound like the sort of character that could come up with some kind of match incident off the top of your tongue. So I'm going to throw that one at you. Either a refereeing one or a football one. We'd prefer a refereeing one, obviously, but obviously we've thrown you in the deep end here.
Right, you want an incident.
A match incident. Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? But something that the listeners will
perhaps learn from,
and perhaps smile and enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yes. Right. Okay. An incident is coming to mind. It's from this season, and we have. And first of all, the incident is a attacking player going in against the goalkeeper. Goalkeeper wins the ball, and then he has a little kick out at the goalkeeper. It's not the nicest kick out. It is a yellow card. He's tried to trip him and kick his legs. It is a second yellow. Okay, so I've given the red card. He has to travel the length of the pitch behind the far goal to the changing room, which took 3 minutes, which I waited for him before I was going to start the game. Whilst that was happening, the technical area were going mad, absolutely mad, and I warned them of their conduct. And bearing in mind, let's let them start the game. And then the game restarted, and straight away, my assistant referee, who's somebody we all know, okay, gave a throw, and it was a throw. There was no problem, and received some pretty not very nice abuse from the same people in the technical area. So obviously, I was called across. I had an inkling of what was said, and it was confirmed to me. I walked over, checked my white card, which I had in my back pocket, which I always put the technical area, here's a little tip, put the technical area occupants on a white card and star the ones who are named as substitute.
That's a new one on me, Anders. I've never come across that before.
Yeah, I do. I put them all on a white card, so I pulled my white card out of my back pocket with all the technical area occupants are. The guy I was removing, I said, "What's your name?" He told me his name, and he was, in fact, the assistant manager, but also a named substitute. Red card, off you go. So so I had that sort of incident this season. So for me, that's just another little tip. It's just something I've sort of started doing this season, is putting the technical area occupants on a little white card in my back pocket, and it worked for me that day. I knew I had his name, and I realised he was also a named substitute.
Did you find out he was a named substitute because he was in your book as a named substitute, and you had the white card as well to confirm? Is that what it is?
It would have been on the assistant's card. I don't write the substitutes down. I leave that with my assistant.
Okay.
But then the technical area occupants that are named substitutes, I star them.
Okay.
And then when I looked at the name he gave me, and I saw a star beside it, I pulled my red card out.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that for the listeners.
Yeah.
Excellent.
No problem. So that was an incident that happened this year with somebody with, like I say, an assistant referee we all know. So you know,
thanks for sharing that, and thanks for not naming the person.
Yeah. I was going to say, good work.
I won't. I was very. Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble.
No, don't name him. Don't name him. Hey, listen, Martin, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you on this particular episode, and thanks very much for sharing your experiences. Hopefully people listening to this are going to pick up on some of your tips and your advice, particularly that one at the end. I've never even heard of the white card one, and I think that's genius. That's a really good one.
I think we'll follow that around a little bit here.
Yeah.
There'll be one or two people asking questions.
Martin, like I say, if there's any other opportunity for you to come on and talk to us at any point, then please feel free, get in touch with us.
Yeah, no problem at all. Would love to.
Anders, great conversation. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, thanks ever so much for having me on.
No problem. That was Martin Underhay, who's level 3 referee, sat in his car outside his house talking on the Referees World podcast.
This is Referees World. Listen online at referiesworld.co.uk or search iTunes for Referees World.